The violin strings still floated through the hall, but I wasn't listening. My eyes had already caught her. My mother, in the shadowed corner by the kitchen doors, half hidden behind a silver tray of untouched champagne flutes. Her hands were trembling, her face pale, the sequins on her dress catching the dim light like broken glass. No one spoke to her. No one even looked. Why is she back there? I whispered to my maid of honor, but she only shrugged, her smile too fixed, too artificial. At the center of the room, my groom was laughing, his hand resting on my father's shoulder, his other clinking a glass with my brother's. Their voices were loud, confident, triumphant. They didn't notice the silence surrounding the kitchen door. They didn't notice her. I did. "Smile, sweetheart." My groom leaned down to me, his breath heavy with champagne. "You're mine now. Forget the old stories. Tonight is about us." But his charm slipped the moment I caught sight of my mother's eyes, wide, glassy, pleading. Something inside me fractured, sharp and cold. The flowers, the music, the gold-threaded tablecloths. All of it felt staged, scripted, wrong. I pulled my phone from my clutch. One name waited in my messages, Senator Hale. He owed me a favor, and I had never thought I'd use it. Until now. My fingers moved quickly, almost without me. "Now, speak." Within minutes, the microphone squealed and the laughter around me froze. Senator Hale stepped up to the podium, adjusting his tie. His voice carried through the chandeliers, smooth and deliberate. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to share something with you tonight. Something the bride deserves." The room stilled. My groom's smile faltered. My father's glass slipped slightly in his hand. Behind them, I watched my mother press her hand to her chest, her body rigid as if bracing for an earthquake. The senator's paws stretched like an uncut thread. My groom's face drained to a pale gray. And me? I stood there in silk and lace, my heart hammering like a secret drum, realizing for the first time, this wasn't their stage anymore. This was mine. The senator's voice was velvet over steel, each word deliberate, each pause a knife. "Marriage," he began, "is not only a union of two hearts, it is also a stage where truth stands taller than ceremony." People laughed nervously, unsure if this was part of the evening. My groom glanced at the DJ, then at me, searching for a cue. His hand twitched at his tie, pulling it tighter, though the room suddenly felt suffocating. "Truth," he whispered to me, a thin smile tugging his lips. "What truth?" I didn't answer. I kept my eyes on the senator, the weight of the moment pressing into my skin. From the corner, my mother clutched the hem of her dress. The fabric crumpled between her fingers, her knuckles white. I wanted to run to her, but my heels were anchored to the marble floor. The senator adjusted his glasses, then continued. "Sometimes families build walls of silence. Sometimes those walls are stronger than love. But tonight those walls will fall." A gasp rippled through the hall. Plates clinked as hands trembled. My aunt shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her husband whispering something sharp in her ear. My father barked out a laugh, too loud, too forced. "Enough. Sit down, Hale. This isn't your podium." But the senator didn't move. His gaze swept the room, then fixed right on my groom. "I was sent a message," he said, pulling his phone from his pocket. The glow of its screen reflected in his glasses. From the bride herself. The hall froze. Heads turned. My groom's jaw slackened. "You! What did you?" he hissed, but his voice was lost under the hum of whispers growing louder. "I only asked," the senator said evenly, "that she not stand alone tonight, that her truth not be hidden in shadows." The spotlight shifted. Literally. A technician, confused or perhaps instructed, swung the light toward the kitchen doors, and there she was, my mother, suddenly illuminated, her hands shielding her face, her shoulders bent under the sudden glare. People gasped. My uncle muttered, "Why is she back there?" My cousin murmured, "I thought she wasn't invited." My groom turned to me, his whisper sharp, "This is a mistake. Fix it. Tell them to stop." But I stayed silent. Silence, I realized, could be louder than any scream. The senator's voice dropped softer now. The bride's mother deserves her seat at the table. The question is, why was she denied it? The chandeliers flickered once, as though the entire room shivered, and my father's hand, still gripping his glass, finally trembled. The silence after the senator's question felt endless, like the hall itself was holding its breath. Forks paused midair. Even the violinist, confused, let her bow hover an inch above the strings. My father's voice finally broke through, too sharp, too rehearsed. "She wasn't denied," he snapped. "She chose to sit back there. Always so dramatic." Gasps scattered through the tables. His attempt at control landed like a stone tossed in glass. My mother's shoulders shook, though whether from fear or fury, I couldn't tell. I stepped forward, my dress whispering against the marble. "She didn't choose that corner." My voice trembled, but I didn't care. "You put her there." Dozens of eyes turned to me. My groom leaned closer, his whisper venomous. "Stop this, Clara. You're embarrassing us." Embarrassing us. Not him. Us. The word dug deep, twisting. The senator didn't flinch. He let my words hang, let the silence sharpen, then spoke. Families often bury what they don't want guests to see, but shadows don't hide truth. They only stretch it taller. My aunt rose halfway from her chair. "This isn't the time." Her voice cracked like dry wood. "No," I said, louder now, my hand shaking as I pointed to my mother. "The time is now. She raised me. She's the reason I can even stand here today. And yet you shoved her into the dark, like she was dirt beneath your shoes." My father's face flushed a violent red. "Enough. Don't." My voice broke, but hardened again. "Don't you dare." My groom's hand clamped around my wrist under the tablecloth. His smile stayed fixed for the crowd, but his grip was iron. "Sit down," he hissed, his teeth barely parting. "You'll regret this." The senator noticed. His gaze lingered on my groom's hand, then shifted to me. A silent question. "Do you want me to keep going?" I answered without words. I tilted my chin just enough. He nodded once, then raised his phone again. The bride sent me this for a reason. Because she knew silence was no longer survival. It was surrender. The guests buzzed louder, their whispers like bees circling honey laced with poison. Some stared at my mother with pity, others with confusion. A cousin muttered, "But wasn't she banned years ago?" And then, like the crack in a dam, my mother lifted her face into the light. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her voice, when it came, was steady. "Ask them why." The room erupted, and the chandelier swayed as though even the ceiling wanted to hear. Her words, "Ask them why," sliced through the air like a blade. Every conversation at every table died instantly. Even the clinking of cutlery seemed ashamed to continue. My father stood, his chair scraping against the marble, the noise harsh enough to make the violinist flinch. "Sit down," he barked at her. "Not here. Not tonight." But my mother didn't move. The light clung to her, trembling on sequins and tear-stained cheeks. For the first time in years, she looked unafraid of him. "I will not sit," she said, each syllable deliberate. "You put me in that corner. Tell them why." The crowd shifted, restless. My cousin whispered, "What's happening?" My aunt snapped, "Stay quiet." My groom tightened his grip on my wrist again, harder this time. "Clara," he growled, still smiling for the guests. "This isn't your fight. Don't let her drag you into her drama." But the word drama echoed, bitter and mocking. I wrenched my hand free. The mark of his fingers burned against my skin, a secret bruise already forming. The senator's voice broke the tension. "The bride has spoken. The mother has spoken. All that remains is truth. So, who will give it? My father's face darkened, veins visible at his temple. This man has no right to interfere. He's a guest, nothing more. Correction, the senator replied calmly. I'm a witness. And I'm not the only one. He gestured toward the tables. All eyes followed, and I realized with a jolt that more than one relative was watching not with confusion, but with recognition. My uncle's hand shook as he reached for his water glass. My cousin avoided my gaze, studying her napkin as though it held scripture. And then, like a tremor spreading from the corner of the hall, whispers began. They told us she wasn't invited. Didn't they divorce years ago? No, he kept her out. She raised Clara. Everyone knows that. My groom leaned close again, his whisper sour. You don't know the whole story. Careful what you unleash. But my mother straightened, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Tell them about the contract. The word rang like a bell. Contract. The senator's eyes narrowed. Contract, he repeated, seizing it like evidence. Gasps spread again. My father's hand trembled so violently the glass slipped from his grip, shattering across the marble. Wine bled into the cracks of the floor, dark red spreading like a secret finally seeping out. And in that silence I realized this wasn't just about humiliation. This was about paper, signatures, power. Something much bigger than shadows. The word hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Contract. My father froze, jaw clenched, eyes darting to my groom as though pleading for rescue. But my groom only adjusted his cufflinks, his mask of charm slipping further. Don't, my father hissed at my mother. His voice was low, desperate. Not here. But she had already stepped forward, her heels sharp against marble. Here, exactly here. Her eyes swept the hall, her chin trembling but proud. They hid it from you all. A contract, signed the week after Clara was born. A deal struck over custody, over money, over silence. Murmurs rose like wind before a storm. My aunt whispered, custody. Someone else said, silence money. My father's laugh was brittle. Lies. She's always had a taste for stories. Stories. My mother's voice broke, then steadied again. Then show them the paper. Show them what you made me sign when I begged to stay in my daughter's life. The senator leaned forward, his interest sharpened. Do you have proof? My mother nodded once, pulling a folded document from the small clutch at her side. The paper looked aged, edges worn from being held too many times in trembling hands. She placed it on the senator's podium like an offering. My stomach flipped. Proof. Something real. The senator adjusted his glasses, scanning quickly, then read aloud. The undersigned agrees to withdraw from marital property, custody rights, and visitation in exchange for financial compensation. Gasps surged through the hall. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. She sold you out, my father snapped, seizing on the moment. For money. Don't you see? She left. But my mother's voice rose above his, raw, trembling. I signed because he threatened me. Said if I fought, he'd ruin me and her. I thought walking away was the only way Clara would survive. My knees wavered. My groom reached for me again, whispering harshly, don't believe her. This is theater. That paper means nothing now. But the senator's voice cut through, steady and sharp. It means everything now. And suddenly, the glittering chandeliers didn't feel like light at all. They felt like interrogation lamps, exposing every lie, every shadow, every bruise hidden in silence. The paper trembled in the senator's hands, but his voice remained firm. This isn't theater. It's evidence. All eyes turned to my father. His lips moved, but no words came. The silence pressed heavy, merciless. I looked at my mother. Her chest heaved, but her gaze stayed locked on me. I didn't leave you, Clara. I was pushed out, paid to vanish. Every holiday, every birthday, I stood outside gates I wasn't allowed to enter. Her words stabbed deeper than the contract itself. My throat burned. You were there. She nodded, tears streaking fresh down her face. Always. The guests erupted, some with pity, others with outrage. My aunt demanded answers. My cousin whispered frantically into her phone. My father raised his voice over the chaos. Enough of this spectacle. She agreed. She took the money, and that's final. But the senator lifted a hand. Not final. Not when coercion is involved. Not when silence was bought at the price of a child's bond. My groom leaned in again, his whisper sharp and urgent. Clara, stop this. If you take her side now, you destroy everything we've built. Everything we've built. The words twisted bitter in my stomach. What had we built? A marriage balanced on shadows and bargains? I pulled my hand away from his. No, you destroyed it the moment you kept her in the dark. The chandeliers swayed slightly, their crystals chiming like fragile bells. For the first time that night, my father faltered. His hand rose to his forehead, as if the weight of years pressed down. The senator lowered the contract onto the podium. The truth has been spoken. Now the question is, what will the bride do with it? Every eye in the hall turned to me. Every gaze pinned me like pins to glass, waiting for me to crack. My heart thundered in my chest, louder than the murmurs swelling across the hall. My groom tried first. His hand hovered near mine again, his voice sweetened with urgency. Clara, this doesn't change us. It's the past. We move forward. His smile strained, his teeth too tight. Don't ruin everything over her. Her, not your mother. The word cut clean. Then my father spoke, low and commanding. Clara, sit down. This is your wedding. Don't dishonor us. Us. Not you. Not me. Us. The walls of that word pressed in, suffocating. I looked at my mother. She stood trembling under the spotlight, but her chin was high. Her sequins caught the light, not like broken glass anymore, but like stars. I wanted her at my side, I said, my voice carrying further than I thought possible. Not hidden, not erased. The room rippled with shock. Someone clapped once, then stopped, unsure if it was allowed. The senator leaned forward, his tone deliberate. The bride has spoken. The contract was never consent, it was coercion. And coercion dies in the light. My father's face turned purple, his jaw tight. You'll regret this, Clara. You don't know what you're doing. But I did. For the first time I did. I reached for my mother's hand across the aisle. The hall fell so silent, the sound of our fingers touching echoed like a vow. From this moment, I said, my throat tight but steady, she is not in the corner anymore. She stands with me. Always. Gasps rose. A few guests clapped, louder this time. My aunt covered her mouth, shaking her head. My cousin muttered, "This changes everything." My groom's whisper came one last time, harsher than ever. "Choose her and you'll lose me." I turned to him, finally seeing the truth in his pale, sweating face. Then I've already lost nothing. The spotlight lingered on me, on her, on us. And in that blinding circle of light, I felt the fracture in my life widen into something else, something freer. The senator folded the contract, slipping it back into my mother's clutch. "It will hold in court," he murmured, "just for us." Court. The word throbbed with possibility, with justice not yet spoken. And as the violins began again, soft, trembling, I realized the wedding was no longer mine. The reckoning was. The music tried to patch over the fracture, but the melody sounded hollow, like a light echoing off marble. Guests shifted, some rising, others whispering furiously. The illusion of celebration had collapsed. My groom released a bitter laugh. "So this is it? A circus? You've embarrassed yourself, Clara. And for what? A woman who sold you out." I turned fully to him, my voice steady. She didn't sell me out. She was forced out, and you stood by their silence." His face twisted, the charm gone. For the first time I saw him not as my groom, but as another shadow in their web. The senator raised his hand, commanding calm. "This matter doesn't end tonight. It belongs before a judge where coercion, fraud, and silence can finally be measured in the open. My father spat. You wouldn't dare." But my mother's hand in mine squeezed tighter. "We will," she said softly. The crowd erupted again, some outraged, some relieved. My aunt stormed out. My cousin followed. Others remained frozen, eyes darting between us like jurors waiting for verdict. I drew a breath, my voice rising enough to pierce the storm. Family isn't built on contracts. It's built on truth. And tonight, I choose truth. A hush fell. For the first time, I wasn't trembling. I was clear. My mother's tears glistened, but her smile carried strength I had never seen in her. The senator nodded, his gaze protective, unflinching. The chandeliers swayed once more, their light no longer interrogating but cleansing, as if the hall itself was exhaling. I looked at my father, then my groom, and finally at her. "From the corner," I whispered to the center. And for the first time in years I felt whole.